Welcome, 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 one and all, to this Level 50 Lifestyle Live Ask Me Anything. Yes, if you're new to this channel, this is Level 50 Lifestyle. We talk about all things reaching level 50 in life, 50 plus, retirement, early retirement, career, if you still got one at 50 plus, health, relationships, love, the works. Put it in the chat if you've got any questions. This is to celebrate that we've hit 5,000 subs on the channel. Whoopee-doo, some people might say. But, you know, it's a little milestone, so I thought I'd celebrate it with this live show. So welcome, one and all. Or as I used to say on another live stream, yokoso, 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 arigato gozaimasu, as they say in Japan. You are very welcome. And it's great to see so many people in the chat already. So fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful, because otherwise it would just be me sitting here shouting into a camera. But, you know, that's okay. I'd do that as well. So, as I said, today is Ask Me Anything. We're going to be talking about my experiences. Those who've been watching my channel will know that obviously I've taken early retirement and I've been documenting my experience and sharing it with people and stuff like that. So I'd like to hear any questions that people might have and all of those, and we'll say hello to the chat and everything as well. I know, oh, it's popped up on the screen there as well. Anyway, so yeah, thank you. We'll wait a few minutes, get a few people coming into the old channel, and then we'll start cracking on with the questions. But I hope you're good. I hope you're well. I hope you've got your cup of tea. It's my Street Fighter cup of tea there. Being a bit of an old gamer. But yes, so as I said, welcome. I am very grateful that you took the time to pop in and say hello. I hope everything is sounding good to you and looking good, he says, and all of that. Why don't we crack on with some questions? As I said, the whole point of this and the way that will work is just get involved in the chat, respond in the chat to people, you know, people. Just if people ask questions, if you've got feedback as well, put it in the chat, mix it all up. Let's just go with that and see how it goes. It's going to be chill. I've got the chill music on. Yeah. The chillaxing music in the background. So hopefully everything is all good. And hey, don't be shy. Yeah. Say hello to everyone in the chat, even if it's a wave, like here, Linda. There we are. Linda Gott's chalk. Little wave there. That's all cool. We like that. Anyway, J-Bo here. J-Bo My Life. J-Bo My Life. Have you settled into a retirement routine yet? I retired last year at 55. Have a pretty good routine and love it. It's great to see. I don't miss work at all and settled straight into my life. Well, that's a good question. I sort of have some structure that I've sort of talked about before on this channel, in the fact that I have my son who's 15 now, and he's here half the week, and I take him into school. I take him into high school on sort of Wednesdays, Thursday mornings and Friday mornings, and then pick him up as well, because he's a little princess, really. Get the train. His sister always complains, because his sister, who's 20 at university, she used to say, I used to get up, Dad, at 6 o'clock in the morning and get the bus to school, and you chauffeur him to school. Yeah, bless her. She's quite right. But anyway, so there is an element of routine there, and it's quite useful actually, because it means I get up. Although in fairness, being in my latter 50s, I do find I'm getting up quite early as well. This idea of lying in bed in your retirement, oh no. I always wondered why people, you know, older folk around me, no disrespect, but the older folk around me, used to sort of see them in the garden at 8 o'clock. I used to think, you're retired, mate. What are you doing? But now I'm a bit older, I realise you can't help but get up early sometimes. Although you can loll about in bed doom scrolling. So yeah, there's a part of my week which is structured anyway. And it's quite a useful discipline to sort of, at least I know I'm not going to be lolling in bed for at least those 2 to 3 days of the week. And it means, you know, once I've dropped him off, I can come back here. I like to probably do some exercise. I don't go to the gym or anything. I do it all here. You know, I'm not a gym bunny or anything like that. I don't really like the gyms. I've got some dumbbells, do some exercising here, have a nice relaxing breakfast, you know, just chill out, plan the day. I've decided now I start going, I do a big shop on a Wednesday, so that's becoming a structure. So I think things evolve organically. You know, there are things that occur during the week which are sort of set in place already, not too much, but there's a little bit of structure there. But I think that I'm learning to sort of add some structure to that and find a routine without, as I've sort of mentioned in other videos, wanting to be too regimented in my routine. There's some things which you are regimented, but I want that flex. But equally, you know, if you want to do things, if you want to have adventures, you know, you've got to, as my old man used to say, got to break an egg to make an omelette. So sometimes you've got to, you know, break out of that routine, because it's quite easy to get into a kind of a routine that suddenly becomes a bit constraining on you, or lazy, or too comfortable. So I think I'll grow into a retirement routine organically. You know, I mentioned in one video how I still used to pop out at 1 o'clock for a walk and suddenly think, why am I doing it at lunchtime? Because it used to be a habit when I worked at home. I'd go, oh, 1 o'clock, time for a walk. So now I kind of go out maybe 11 or half 11 or something like that, go for a walk, or even in the evening. So yeah, I think the retirement routine will probably evolve organically. And I think also I'll be conscious to maybe have a checkpoint in maybe 3 months' time, just to see that I'm not sort of getting too lazy or comfortable with a routine that and that comfortable, you know, like comfortably numb, to quote Pink Floyd. I'm not getting into that comfortably numb scenario where it's stopping me from doing stuff. I still haven't really gone away anywhere. You know, I was planning maybe to go to France to see my sister, but she's not there. She's still in Scotland where she lives in the moment. So yeah. Anyway, so there we go. That's routine. But let me know, you know, if you're well into retirement, do you have a routine? What do you think about it? Do you ever kind of want to break that routine? As I said, put it in the chat. Let me know. But good question. Steve Wright off the radio. For those in the UK, no, different Steve Wright. Was retirement at this age a consideration before your work circumstances changed, or did you have another age year in mind? Yeah, so I'd been toying, he says, toying with the idea of, well, no, not toying. I'd sort of been dreaming or thinking about it, like thinking, can I carry on working until I'm 67 or 65? And as I said, I visited my sister in France. She retired in her 50s with her husband, and, you know, they have a lovely life half the year in France. And I kind of thought, yeah, this is the life, but I can't retire in my 50s. You know, I've got too many commitments. Got a big mortgage, got the kids, got, child, maintenance, all that kind of stuff. It's just like too many expensive cars, debts, all that kind of stuff that, you know, you accumulate over time. And so you just think, no, it can't be done. But I thought, I can't work until I'm 65. I couldn't see it, especially the sort of job I'm in. Not that it's stressful. It's just that I look around, I don't see many people, or I didn't think, I mean, it's hard to tell how old people are now, nowadays, because people look a lot younger than you imagine. But I used to look around and think, there's, you know, I can't see anybody here who's over 60. I mean, there must be in the office. Not that I was in the office, but I mean, there must have been. But yeah, so the thought of working until I was 65, definitely. So I thought I had in mind 60. Yeah, could I retire at 60? And I sort of did some rough back of the envelope calculations and stuff like that. And it, you know, it's sort of, yeah, I don't know, it just sort of, I don't know, it didn't really sort of seem really doable, maybe, possibly, I don't know. But then circumstances changed, so my circumstance redundancy came along, and then I really started doing the calculations. And it kind of made me realize that I'd be better off doing it now than waiting till I was 60. I'd probably be better off overall if I waited till I was 65. Like if it was just pure finance, nothing else, pure financial calculation, forget about health, well-being, emotional well-being, all that kind of stuff. If it was purely a financial equation, then yeah, I'd probably be quids in if I kept working until I was, 65. But there are so many other factors that people often overlook. And one of them is just your mental well-being. I saw a video today, actually, where they were talking about the actual cost of continuing to work. There's a sort of a direct cost of continuing to work and a sort of an indirect cost of continuing to work, i.e. increasing your stress and stuff like that. And that they found that people who retire early, have less stress and therefore less likely to suffer from heart attacks and things like that. And so if you're in America where you've got to pay for your healthcare, the fact that you're keeping working is increasing the chances of you getting stressed and having a heart attack or whatever it is. So actually there is a financial value potential that you don't consider if you retire early. So yeah, so originally I thought, what could I do to retire at 60? Could I, start cutting costs? What would I have to get rid of and stuff like that? So those ideas started forming. But when the redundancy opportunity came along, I thought, yeah, absolutely, I have to grab it. It's interesting. There was a colleague of mine at work about 10 years ago. In fact, earlier than that, I remember finding out how old he was. I was 40 at the time, and I suddenly found out he was 50. You know how you work with people and sometimes you have no idea how old they are. I don't like to ask. Anyway, and it turned out he was 50, which I thought was a lot older than I thought he was. And I always remember thinking when I was 40, sitting in the office looking at him, and he'd been working there for like 25 years, whatever. And he was 50 doing the same job. He'd been doing it for the last 20 odd years, same job. And I remember looking at him and thinking, oh my God, I hope in 10 years time, I'm not 50 like him doing the same job. Well, cut to 10 years later, I was 50 and yeah, I was just like him, I was still doing the same job. So, be careful what you sort of don't wish for, as it were. Anyway, the irony is that a redundancy opportunity came up for him and when he was 60, so this was 10 years later, and he took it. And I remember at the time thinking, oh my God, you've been working at the company for nearly 30 years, so your redundancy package is going to be sweet. You're 60, so I know you got no mortgage. I know your kids are over 20, so you've got no kids at home, anything like that. You got a big, so you've been, as I say, been there for 30 years, so his pension's going to be pretty good as well. I just thought, oh my God, he's quids in. What a perfect opportunity. And I thought, if ever, and this is the idea of me, I thought, what, if I'm going to copy his life, if ever I get to 60 and this opportunity comes up, I'm grabbing it. Now, as it turns out, the opportunity does come up because these things tend to come around every 5 to 6 years when companies suddenly decide, oh no, we've run out of money, or oh no, we've got to make savings. Every 5 to 6 years. It's not a coincidence. It was a bit early for me. Like I wasn't 60. I was 56, 57. But I thought it's doable. And that's what really kind of put me on the course as I'd been growing, and what with working from home and sort of losing, not the will to live, but losing the will to work. Not that I didn't like it, but just being on cruise control. And I just thought, if this can work, even though it's a little bit earlier, maybe 3 years early for me, if I can make it work, I definitely will. So yeah, that's the consideration I had. Which, to follow on, did I work for the BBC? Yes, I did. Correct. Swipe 65th. The 650 of the Swipe family there. Did HR ever get back to you? No. And I emailed them. Nada. Nothing. Diddly squit. I've been going back and forth with the pension people recently, which is a whole different thing. So I still don't know what the money that they paid me, I still don't know how that breaks down. I will follow up with them. I'm sure it's right, but you just got to check these things. Interestingly enough, I got sort of my pension, I got my first payment pension a week or so ago, and then I've just got a notification of my other payment pension. So I've got two pensions. They're from the same place, but they just changed the pensions. And so, yeah, they've got different names, but they're from the same place. Anyway, I just got notification of my current pension, and I noticed that they deducted tax on it at source. And I was like, I didn't think, none of my calculations have tax deducted at source, like you would, like, you know, pay as you earn kind of thing at work, your salary, and then they take the tax off. I wasn't expecting that on the pension. So I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And then I noticed the tax code. So this is in the UK. I noticed the tax code was BR, which is basic rate. So when they don't know, and I looked it up, so I had to do all research on this. Like, this is crazy. Well, I'll come to this later about how, why do they make tax and pensions so complicated? Is it just to keep financial advisors in a job, pension advisors in a job? It shouldn't have to be that complicated. Anyway, basically, when they don't know what your tax rate is, they just stick BR on it. Yeah, basic rate, 20%. So they just instantly just deduct 20%. Even though I'm in a brand new tax year, I have 12,500 personal tax allowance. So in the UK, 12,500, your first 12,500, no tax. Yeah. So I'm retiring at the beginning of a tax year. So basically the first few months at least, no, I'm not, I'm way under 12.5 grand a year. So there should be no tax. So I checked my tax code with the government online. Again, this is so complicated. I'm an intelligent guy. I know about these things. I have an account with the HMRC, you know, with Her Majesty's government online and all these kind of things. I know how to navigate myself around that site. I checked, and they have issued me a tax code, which is a different tax code. So what's happened is that because it's beginning of the tax year, they've sort of overlapped, and the pension company didn't know, so they just stuck basic rate. And the tax, and yeah, and the tax have given me a proper tax number now, which is not BR. It is the sort of the basic level, you know, 12,500 personal allowance. So I've got to sort of wait for that to come through. And so I complained to the pension company, and they basically said, yeah, we just stick you on basic rate when we don't know. And then once the tax office tell us what your rate is, then we'll refund you. I mean, it's not much. It's just like a couple of £100, but it's the principle of the thing. So yeah, so back to the HR thing, like you need to see what my sort of redundancy package, my additional leave bonus, my extended leave allowance that I was given that, you know, I couldn't take. So I want to see that all broken down. At the moment, it's just a big fat lump sum that ended up in my bank account. So you need to see these things to see, were you taxed correctly and all of these things. So it's just really annoying. And when you know, obviously I'm sending it into HR, but I'm sending it through my private email. So it could be like, to them, it's probably just junk mail, isn't it? Anyway, I will follow them up. I will follow up again anyway. So yeah. Started my early retirement. As Raul says, hi guys, started my early retirement recently. I have so many opportunities presenting itself, trying to pull me back to work. Well, you know, actually, it's interesting. I've been talking to a couple of people recently about, and I think I mentioned it in a video, about one way to early retirement is to step down. If you're in a position where you can sort of begin to switch off the taps, rather than just, as I said, you know, guillotine wise, from maximum velocity work to nothing, which I think can be a sort of a mental jolt. Maybe ease your way down. If you're freelance or whatever, start easing your way into it. And I think that is maybe a sensible way. So I think if there are opportunities, pick and choose if you can. If you have that luxury, I think being able to pick the work or slow the work down. I know somebody, you know, who works freelance, and they're just saying, yeah, they're thinking of wind down to retirement. So they'll just take slightly less jobs, which I think is a good way to do it. You know, I keep myself occupied and stuff doing this. So it's a sort of a way of sort of winding down. It gives me a focus, you know, so yeah, it's good. The opportunities, you know, it's interesting actually, because I've had a couple of few people contact me through LinkedIn, former BBC people actually, saying, oh, I've watched your videos. Like, not, I don't know them, but they worked at the same company I did, saying, oh, you know, can we connect, you know, because I relate to a lot of what you're saying. Didn't connect with me when I was at the BBC, but now I've left. You know, when we worked at the same company, but now I've left. They've discovered me via my YouTube videos, which is quite interesting. Just going to hit a button there. Don't forget, if you're new, hit the like, subscribe, all of that. Let's get as many likes as we can going. Let's take a little cup of tea. Is there an upside and downside to retiring that you didn't anticipate? Good question. Says Limelight Vinty. Yeah. Well, the upside really is no stress. Well, I mean, it's stress, but not stress. As I've sort of said, I don't want to paint the picture that, you know, I hated work. Oh my God. I didn't hate work. I just didn't really get any more satisfaction out of it. So, and you get to that level sometimes in life where I've talked about you're on cruise control, you're going through the motions. That doesn't mean you're not doing a good job. I mean, you're paid to do a job. If you're paid to move 100 bricks from this location to that location, and you move 100 bricks, right? And when you start out, oh, it's really hard work and you're not too sure how to move the bricks properly and all that kind of stuff. But then after 10 years of moving the bricks, you could do it really quickly. You're still delivering the same level of service. You're still doing the same job. You're doing your job description. Yeah. So it's like that. It's like you're not doing a bad job. Could you do more? Could you go out of your way? Yes. Are you going to get paid for it? No. So, yeah. And at 50, you know, when you're younger, maybe the value in going that extra mile, showing that extra keenness is the opportunity to progress up the, you know, the greasy pole. And so there is value in that to you. You might not get paid more then, but you might be spotted, might get a promotion, might find a job opportunity. So you'll get paid later. So you're investing in future opportunities. But when you're like 50 or something, and I've said before, you're either at management level, so you're in a bottleneck career wise, where, like, you know, if I think there were, I don't know, say there were 20 managers and one senior manager role. What's that phrase when you have to wait until somebody dies before the job opportunity comes up? It was like that kind of thing. And so you get stuck at a certain level. And so therefore going above and beyond, what value does it serve you? Unless you have you're one of these people that have, you know, love your job so much, you get that immense job satisfaction, and going over and above means something. But it's not going to give you any more value financially if there are no more opportunities. So yeah, so you're cruising along. So I was cruising along. So it wasn't as though, you know, I hated the job. I did my job well. I was respected. People came to me when they needed things sorted out because they knew I could sort it out fuss free, all of that kind of stuff. But you still worry, don't you? You still have, talk about the Sunday gloom, Monday morning blues. Even if you like your job, it's like, oh, got to get up. Oh, there's that thing I didn't do. Oh my God, that agent's ringing me up. Oh, I'm going to be nagging. Oh, I got that difficult negotiation conversation to have. Whatever your job is, there's always bits where you just think, oh, whereas, yeah, none of that. And recently, for instance, I have days now where I'm really busy for all of us for some reason, like just doing stuff, busy doing stuff. And afterwards I think, oh my God, I'm so busy. I thought retirement was meant to be easy. I'm so busy. And then I remember actually, you know what? I don't have to do anything tomorrow. Yeah. I'll just do nothing. So you can constantly just say, I'm not going to do anything today. And that to me is one of the biggest sort of freedoms. The best things, one of the biggest upside is that you can stop whenever you want. You know, I might have a day where I'm full of ideas. I make some videos. They take longer than I thought. I feel really not stressed, but like busy. And I think, wow, where's the day gone? And then I think, well, actually, I'm not going to do anything tomorrow. I've done loads of stuff. I'm satisfied with that. So that's a real upside. It's interesting because my kids went to see 21 Pilots, the band, my lord. I went to see 21 Pilots in London. So I went up to London and to see my partner, and then I picked them up in the evening after the gig about midnight. Then I drove them back all the way to where we live, so that, you know, stopped off at a service station, get burger for them and all that kind of stuff. So but it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and then woke up, took my, then took one of them to school, then took the other one to the train station in the morning. I came back and I was just thinking, wow, that's 2 days, so busy. But then why am I worrying about it? We'll just sit in the garden for the rest of the afternoon. So that's the biggest upside, the freedom to be able to stop and chill whenever you want. The downside is, Keith Stewart just described. Thank you very much, Keith Stewart. The downside is, I guess it's finance. You always worry. You know, it never seems enough. I made a leap of faith. It wasn't a leap of faith, but a leap of calculated risk. I made a leap of calculated risk in terms of this retirement. I've said before, I did all the calculations, and it seemed to work out. It was just enough. It was just enough. And I just thought, but if I don't do it, I'll never do it. If I'd wait for it to be perfect, if I think, a couple of extra £100 a month or whatever would make all the difference, all that kind of stuff, it's always that it's never quite enough. I always find that with finance. You just always got plans and, get a job, whatever, and it's never quite enough. There's always an extra £100 that you could do with. If only I had an extra £100 or an extra little bit. But I took that decision. And so there's always part of me where now I've done it, little expenses come out the woodwork that you just think, oh, damn. It's like little whack-a-mole. Slowly those moles, financial moles that keep popping up that you thought you'd calculated or you hadn't considered pop up. And you think, I hadn't thought of that. So you slap it down. And they're slowing down now. But that's the biggest fear is, finance. I'm having to change my lifestyle and adapt to it. What will my kids' birthdays be like? What will Christmas be like? My partner's birthday, what would that be like? I can't quite be as extravagant as I was, but perhaps that's all right. And I want to go out. I want to sort of travel a little bit more than I have done. Now I've got the freedom to do it. Will I have enough to do that? What sacrifices do I have to make? So it's just adapting to that. And the other thing, there's always that little doubt in your head going, for me, it's a tiny, it's getting smaller, saying, have you made the right decision? Because you do look around and people are, still working. It's like a double-edged. If I'm driving back after I've dropped my son off from school and I see people walking towards the train station in their suit and stuff, and they used to be on the commute when I was on the commute 10, 15 years ago, and they're still doing it. And there's part of me thinking, oh my God, bless you. And these people that are commuted hardcore, Monday to Friday, 9 to Friday, they were doing it when I was doing it 10 years ago. They're still doing it now. I don't know how I did it. Commuted 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Whew. But yeah, so downside, convincing yourself that you've made the right decision, and finance. Being confident, but making it work. The finance thing is, it's close enough, so I'm just going to make it work. Would you want to do any courses, part-time study, says Jen. Good question. I'm always learning. I'm trying to learn Japanese. I'm used Duolingo. Useless. Learning a language. I'm on like a 900-day streak on Duolingo, and you just have to ask my Japanese partner, can I speak Japanese? No. I can recognize a few words. I could say, the odd sentence and stuff like that. But honestly, after 900 days, you'd think you'd done a little bit better. So I'd like to study a bit better. I'm thinking of getting some sort of equivalent of Japanese primary school books, and like literally learning like a child. I was thinking that's probably the best way. Although other than being in Japan, even when I was there in January for a short while, you're forced to say a few phrases, although it does help if your partner can speak Japanese. But yeah, you're forced to say a few phrases, and it's quite satisfying, like being in any foreign country and trying to speak the language is very satisfying. But I also, learn IT stuff as well, a bit boring, but I'm trying to do some coding at the moment, programming using AI, so they call it vibe coding, and learning my way around that. But in terms of formal courses, I'm not sure. I might take the odd online course now and then. But yeah, it's not, I'm sort of done with studying. When I was working, I did part-time study. I did a law degree while I was working. Well, it converts, it's a postgraduate diploma in law, so it converts your sort of, if you've already got a degree, then you just converts it into a law degree, basically. And I did that while I was working, and it was tough. And then I looked to sort of take it to another level years later, but unfortunately I made the mistake in my 50s when I moved here where I am now. I sort of split up my partner and stuff, and so then I tried to sort of take my legal qualification to another level and started studying again, but I made the great mistake of buying an Xbox, and that ruined that. But there we go. What advice would you give a 45-year-old planning to retire in 10 years? What should I be doing now? The way I think about it is well, really obvious stuff like, pension planning and stuff like that, and, whatever pension you have. But the more you can reduce your current expenses, focus on that, is my view. Because retirement comes down to a question or it should do, not how much will I have when I retire, but more, how much do I need? Yeah. If you want to retire early, right? If you're thinking there is immense value to me in not working. Yeah. There's immense value in me not working, to me personally. Then the question is, how much do I need to live to achieve that? And one of the biggest things is, and that will free you up, is not having a lot of outgoings. And then you suddenly go, oh, actually, I only need 1,500 quid. Or I say only, look, I'm just using an example. That might be a lot of money to a lot of people. But for example, in fact, interestingly enough, I was looking at retirement living standards. Let me just sort of flash this up for you. Good job I did this little page. Oh, he says, bear with me 1 second. Let's go window capture. Where's my screen capture? Bear with me. Didn't have it out. There we go. Right. Interesting that, so this is a sort of a regular survey, and this is in Which magazine here. How much will I need to retire? And it's quite interesting here. This is based in the UK, and I think the survey assumes that you don't have rent or mortgages, but a single person household, they're saying minimum 14,400. Moderate lifestyle, 31,300. Comfortable, 43,100. And then if you're in a 2-person household, obviously you're sharing costs, so it's 22,000 for minimum, 43,000 for a moderate retirement, 59,000 comfortable. And what that basically means here, they also do a little chart. So for instance, DIY, £100 a year to maintain property. It's going to be more than that. surely. Whereas here, comfortable, replace your bathroom every 10 to 15 years. Food, £50 per week on minimum, £70 on groceries a week if you're comfortable. Transport, for instance, no car, minimum. 3-year-old small car, replace every 7 years. Or comfortable, 3-year-old small car, replace every 5 years. And then holidays down here, a week-long UK holiday, whoopee-doo. Fortnight, 3-star all-inclusive in the Med and a weekend break in the UK. Or a 4-star holiday in the Med, spending money, 3 long weekend breaks in the UK. So it's very general, let's be honest. But I thought it was interesting. Just readjust my screen. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. So yeah, if you can cut down those costs, it really frees you up thinking, actually, I only need 1,500 a month or 1,000 a month or 2,000 a month or whatever it is. Whereas, I mean, one of the things that put me off, you know, or didn't think I could do it, was the fact that I still had a mortgage. I still had, you know, debts, and they'd sort of grown without you realizing, like mold. Debts are like mold, especially when you're earning money. You just think, you know, I saw a video about these sort of quick, you know, pay, you know, buy now, pay later type things, which are just so easy to do. I'll just put it on 3 payments. Oh yeah, put it on 3 payments. I used to do that all the time. Think interest free. I've got the money. I'll pay that off. But suddenly you've got 2 or 3 overlapping. And then it goes, oh yeah, your next monthly payment is coming out. Your Klarna payment or whatever it is coming out. And it's, you know, 200 quid. And you think, what? And it's because you've gone and hit, you know, paying 3 easy installments on 3 different items over the last 3 months or something. So yeah, if you can get rid of all of that, reduce those outgoings, it just gives you options. So I would definitely, although it feels painful, paying off debts and not saving, it seems counterintuitive. It is much more of value to you. If you're carrying a debt with like an 18%, 20% APR, like a credit card, it's much better to pay that off than to save. Because what you're saving, you're getting 4% interest. And you're paying 18%, 20%, 27% on some credit cards and stuff like that. So yeah, start reducing your any debts you've got. And then if you can save at the same time, great, but hit those debts first. Honestly, that's my advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but if I was living my life again, debts have been the bane of my life. Really interesting. Free trade to financial. Really interesting watching journeys. You're 10 years ahead of you. Did you use the 4% withdrawal rate as a guide to your pension investments? No, I didn't. So I know there's a lot of sort of conversation around that and how effective that may or may not be. I'm lucky in that I have a defined benefits pension, the company I work with. So my sort of, in fact, I'm more than lucky. I'm super lucky. Yeah, and I'm really grateful that, but then is it luck? It's partly the choice I made from a career was that you know, people, you know, said sort of, I could have changed my job. I could have gone for another career, not another career, but I could have gone to another company. But the factor in my mind was, yeah, I might get paid a little more, but the pension scheme I've got is really is much better. So yeah, sure, for more short-term gain, yeah, I could do it, but for long-term, it's better. I'm probably better off staying where I am, which is my decision. So when I say I'm lucky, I take that with a pinch of salt, because there is an element of choice. Or if other people say, oh, you're lucky, it's not luck. It was part choice. So that I stuck with the company I did, partly because of the pension scheme. So I have a defined, I think it's called defined benefits pension. So it's guaranteed, and it goes up in line with inflation. So I'm lucky in that regard. I don't have to watch the, you know, my 401k or whatever they call it in America, or, you know, investments or stuff like that. And I'm quite happy with that. Could I have withdrawn it all and taken it to another pension company and invested it in more risky portfolio and all of that? Yeah, but I don't want that anxiety. I do, you know, I have a few little tiny investments because I'm too scared. So I just do it for fun. You know, some gold. I invest in gold in these sort of turbulent times, although gold's gone a bit crazy. I have a tiny little bit of Bitcoin and some in the S&P 500. But I'm talking like a couple of hundred. I'm not thousands. I don't have the confidence to put thousands in. The rest are in like ISAs, so tax-free savings. And then I draw down on that. So there is an element of drawdown in order for me to sustain this lifestyle until a few key milestones, you know, until I hit my state benefit age, which in this country, in the UK, is 67. So, yeah. Lee Johnson says, great channel. Thank you, Lee. Remember to hit likes, everybody. Gosh, 73 people in the channel. That's great to see. I hope you're enjoying this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Yeah, all good brew. My life. Yeah, brilliant. What flag's that? I can't see that one. Hello, Rebecca. How are you? Good to see you. Mind me asking about finances. How much did you retire on? I'm particularly interested in this. Okay, so as I said, I have a defined benefit pension scheme. I always get it muddled up. But yeah, so all I knew is like, okay, I needed roughly, not going into too much detail, about two in my head at the time. So like, let's put this, let's bring some realism to this. When I did all my calculations, if I could clear my mortgage, clear the debts, which are the biggest drain on my outgoings by a massive margin. If I could clear all that, I think, you know, bearing in mind I've still got child maintenance to pay, which is a big chunk. And, you know, I'm still looking after my kid and all that kind of stuff. If I could clear that out, I could probably, I needed about $2,000. So it's £2,000. So what, maybe $2,500. The reality, I think, is probably I need maybe 100 to 200 more. You know, as I said, you plan it all out and then these things come out the woodwork, or costs you haven't thought. And I've managed to mitigate some of the things that have come out the woodwork. I've kind of thought, okay, maybe I'll, you know, I don't need to spend so much on food. I mean, I'm on my own half the week. I never did do a big shop. So yeah, I don't drink, not out of any kind of major reason other because I don't really go out and socialize in that way, so I don't really drink, and so I've stopped drinking. I used to have, you know, maybe the odd bottle of cider and sit back and watch Netflix or something, or a movie, and maybe have a little bottle of cider, but you know, and when you're in a relationship and you're living with somebody, you maybe, you know, share a bottle of wine or all of that. No, nada. And so I've sort of gone off drink, really. It's just disappeared from my life. So I don't drink and stuff like that. So I can afford to sort of tweak some of the variables in my monthly budget to try and make it work. But I just think now it's too late. I've made the decision. But like that's part of the character I am. If it's close enough, I'll manage. Yeah, we're only talking 100, 200 quid out. So like I can try and find that from somewhere. But yeah, I'd say two grand is what is sort of what I'm going for. And then with the defined pension, it makes up most of that. And then I top it up with my savings by drawing down on my savings. And then as the years go by, some of the expenses will disappear. So like child allowance, when my kid hits 18, boom, that's gone. So that's a big chunk. So then I don't need as much. I don't have to draw down quite as much. So that's kind of what I'm working on at the moment anyway. Thank you, Lee. Oh, yeah, we've done that one. Finances. Oh. Jumped a bit far ahead. Wow, so many questions. I better shout out. Yeah, of course. Everybody gets a shout out, Linda. If our parents built enough assets for us, we wouldn't have to struggle in our youth just to pay rent and wait until retirement. Yeah. Well, we live in a different world, don't we? I mean, our parents, you know, I remember the economist Gary Stevenson was asked by Piers Morgan, you know, when did higher tax rates benefit anybody? Well, the 1950s and the 1960s, to be honest. You know, tax rate was 90% for millionaires, or, you know, crazy. You know, you think, what, 90%? It's only 90% once you hit the million back in the day. Anyway, the point is, you could work at a, you know, you could be like so Gary Stevenson quotes how his father was a postman, yeah, and yet he managed to buy a house in London, bring up a family. If you're a postman in London now, you'd be hard pushed to be able to afford to buy a house. So our pay might be better. The interest rates on mortgages might be better now. But actually the cost of being out, this is in the UK specifically, the cost to being able to buy a house now is extortionate unless you've got the bank of mum and dad. It's really difficult. So, you know, if the cost of living wasn't so much, if you could, you know, if houses weren't, especially in the UK, didn't cost so much. I mean, I'm sort of lucky that I rode that wave a little bit, not quite the baby boomer wave. I'm a Gen Xer, but I did benefit from, I mean, I struggled. I remember when I bought my flat, I was naive. In my 20s, I was living with friends, and then I thought, oh, you know, I'll buy a flat. And where I lived, I think there was a flat and it was going for like 67.5 grand. And I looked up online, I think at the time, was online available when I was in my 20s? Don't know. Computers. And it, you know, back then it used to be, oh, you can get a mortgage 3.5 times your salary. And at the time it was just, oh, I was just short, like, or 3 times your salary. I was like, oh, I was just short. So I couldn't get that flat for 67.5. And then within 5 years, that flat was 250 grand. And I ended up buying a similar flat in a street nearby years later for 250 grand. Same flat. And what I didn't realise is if I went to a mortgage broker, they would have broken the rules about the three times your salary kind of stuff. But that was based on back in the day, in the early 70s and the 60s, that kind of mortgage calculation, when 3 times your salary could afford to buy a house. 3 times most people's salary is nowhere near enough to buy a house in the UK anyway. So yeah, it's a struggle. There we are, wisdom I've shared. What percentage of your old monthly salary are you on now? Less than 50%. I'm talking no. I don't know, actually. I'm trying to think actually what my take-home pay was. That's the thing. I never looked. I kind of know what it was, but you know, the point is, you know, I lived a life financially. You know, that's why I never take advice, never take financial advice. I can just tell you my own experience and what I might do, but it's not advice, I hasten to add, because, you know, I earned enough money that sort of covered what was going out. So I never really looked. But I think, I'm trying to think, I think roughly half, I'd say roughly half my old monthly salary. But as I said before, the big difference is if I'm getting rid of roughly half my outgoings, I don't need all that salary. So that's the key thing. It's not about how much money you earn. It's about how much money you need. You know, we all have different priorities in life. I was saying to my son, we saw some fancy car recently. It was an MG, an electric MG, which I've not seen. I was thinking, an MG? I've not seen an MG car in ages. And then my son goes, oh, it's a new one. It's the electric one. I thought, I didn't even know they did electric. Brand new car. Some guy living around where I do. Same sort of house. So I know, you know, we're not like millionaires here. We've just got little houses. So I'm thinking, how? And I've always thought in my life, how do people afford big cars, you know, fancy cars? You know, I'm talking like, how do you afford like an £80,000 car? £100,000 car? How do people afford it? But it's about priorities and choices. You know, it's important to them in the, you know, unless it's a company car. I had a company car, you know, years ago, and you used to have an allowance, and you could say, okay, yeah, up to £500 a month or whatever it was. So you could get like a medium level car. But like, I just think, how do people buy? I want to buy an electric car. I'd love to buy an electric Mini, you know, 30 grand. What? How do people, but priorities, I guess. 66, but 1 year till retirement. Good luck with that. Nigel says, Nigel Ennis, what prompted you to jump early at 57? I think opportunity. The opportunity was there. I really couldn't, just the prospect of working beyond 60 made my heart sink. And I always had in the back of my head, if this opportunity ever came along, I'd take it. And it came along, and I really thought, I'd been thinking about this, the concept of it, of retirement. Can I make it to 60? How would I manage to retire at 60? All of this kind of stuff. Not super planning, but just like a dream, a target. Maybe I'll start thinking about it now. Maybe I'll make some little changes now. All of these things. More like maybe I'll do this. Not positive action. But always in the back of my mind was, if redundancy came along and it worked out, I'd grab it. And so, yeah, 57. And I think you're right, 55, 60. Because the more I looked into it, the more idea of the go-go years, the more about like enjoying life. I just reevaluated my life. Reevaluated my life. Thinking, what are my priorities in life? And my priorities in life are just, I want to do what I want to do. Like a child, I want to do what I want to do. But like I'm old now, do what I want to do, you know, and not be beholden to, you know, corporate and work life. I just thought it was time to explore things. And yeah, like it may be 3 years too early because my son still got another 3 years at school, and I can't just, you know, sell up and go traveling, or sell up and sit on a beach in Vietnam or whatever it is. You know, as people joke, you're gonna be a sex tourist in Thailand. No. But, you know, or just go and buy a house in France or whatever it is. I can't quite do that yet. So I'm going to make up with that and do on little visits and stuff, little trips. But yeah, opportunity is what drove me at 57. And I'm glad I did it. Well, so far, we're only a few months into it, but yeah. Are you drawing on your private pension or using? So it's on the pension. I'm drawing on the pension. I've taken the pension early. I had a real light bulb moment. So it's interesting. Yeah. So the pension company, or the company I work, the pension company put on a workshop for those considering, you know, voluntary redundancy, to talk about pensions. And when I just touched down from having been in Japan. Did I mention it? Having been in Japan, I just touched down, and I was quickly logging on to this workshop. Anyway, the pension guy there was saying that if you take your pension early, it's obviously heavily discounted, because the way the pension is worked out is that they're going to be paying you this for the rest of your life. So they work out roughly, okay, what is the mean average of somebody's life? I don't know, you know, 82 years or whatever it is, or, you know, 76 years. They work out what the mean average, and then they go, okay, so assuming retirement age 65, based on how long you've worked at the company, they do the algorithm, you know, they put the calculation in an algorithm, and they work out how much, you know, you'll get paid per month. So if you choose to retire early, well, they're going to have to start paying that money out early, which was never in the calculation. So they discount the amount. You don't get what you would have got if you were 65. They do a discount. So initially you do the calculation, you go, oh, my monthly pension's going to be a lot less by retiring now than if I wait until I'm 65. which on first glance you think, well, forget it. I'll just work until I'm 65 because, you know, in 65, say for example, let's just make up some numbers. When I'm 65, I'll get £2,000 a month. But if I retire early, they're going to discount it, and I'm only getting £1,500 a month. So I'd rather wait and get £2,000 a month. But what you don't realize is if you retire now, you get that £1,500 a month now. So you're actually getting that money, right? So if you retired, say, let's do quick maths, some easy maths. If you retired at 55 and instead of getting a pension of £2,000 a month, you get a pension of £1,500 a month. Yeah, so 500 less. The point is, for those 10 years, you're actually getting £1,500 a month every month for those 10 years before you hit 65. So how many months would you have to work at 65 earning £2,000 a month to make up that 10 years of £1,500 a month? And I just thought, oh yeah, you actually get the money now. So there's sort of value in it. And that really helped me go back and throw my calculations that I had out the window and redo them again. So yeah. So most of it is the pension. I've taken it early. I've taken the discount because I just think it's worth it because I'm getting the money now. You can still work and take a pension as well. That's the interesting thing. So you could go part-time and take the pension to top it up. And then I draw down on some of the savings, which is left over from the redundancy after I've paid the rest of my mortgage off. So basically I've taken a tax lump sum as well from my pension, and then a bit of money from the redundancy, put that together, paid off all the debts and the mortgage. Well, I haven't quite paid it off yet. I'm waiting for the tax-free lump sum to come free from the pension. As soon as that's there, pay off the mortgage, reduce all my outgoings, and yeah, whoopee-doo. And then I top up what I need from the savings, and I only need to do that for maybe 4 or 5 years. So I've worked out what I need to draw down over the 4 or 5 years, and then after 3 years, as I said, one of the major outgoings I have now will disappear, so I don't need as much, and maybe some other expenses might have dropped. So yeah, that's the calculation anyway. Hello, Sparky Mart 10, the 10th of the Sparky Marts. I made enough assets for my kids so they pursue their interests at young age and retire without issue. Good for you. I think we live in the UK. I think if you lucky, and as I said, if you're a boomer or a Gen Xer and you're lucky enough to have a house, then your kids will probably be all right. It depends how old you live to, really. You got away with quiet quitting. Did you still feel it wasn't a burden? My job was no more of a burden than, I guess, any other jobs. And I know some people work a lot harder, have a lot more hellish. I made my work as simple as it could be. And that was rewarded as well. I was asked to find, constantly work is going through simplification. And I was always up for that. Yeah. And being a long-standing part of the workforce there, they used to say, okay, how can we have workshops? How can we simplify this? What are the things that we can stop doing? What are the things that we have to keep doing? Can we simplify it, guys? And I was thinking, yeah, I'd love to be part of this initiative to simplify things, not throughout any altruistic reason, but purely personal reason, because I'm already simplifying things. So yeah, I'll share how I simplify my job with the rest of the group. So it was less of a burden, but it got to a point where I was, because I was working from home, I think it just made me reassess the life-work balance and what's important in life, and where's my career going and why am I doing it? I worked in TV, and every program that I was involved in, worked on, I watched. Yeah. But for the last, at least 10 years, I've stopped watching TV. I mean, I watch a bit of Netflix and all of that, but I watch so much YouTube because I used to watch it with my kids, and I still watch it. And now I make YouTube. The TV world, the world that I was in, has changed seismically. Yeah. TV has been the same for the last 60 years. Schedules, you know, you have your schedules, you have the way that the TV is structured, what programs go on at a certain time. Yeah, the programs might change, but basically they're the same. So the business model has been unchanged for 60, 70 years. Since streaming, blowing it out the water. So yeah, I think that, along with just, you know, the pandemic and rethinking life and all of that, just changed everything over time. Like none of these things are sudden. I always say it's like coastal erosion. You just wake up and you just wonder where the coast has gone. You know, 10 years. It's like mold, like I said, on the wall. See a bit of mold, forget about it, and then, you know, months later you go, oh my God, where did that all come from? You know, weeds in my garden is a classic example. The kid's grandfather, before he died, bless him, used to come round because he retired, but he was one of these people that he was like a hard worker, worked all his life, old school, yeah, baby boomer, worked hard all his life, proud of working. But when he retired, he did suffer from boredom, and so he used to come round every week and do my garden, just because he wanted something to do. But then he sadly passed away, and then over the years, I never really paid attention to my garden. And then 2-3 years later, when suddenly my partner says we're going to tackle the garden, we start, you know, and I thought, well, I've never really looked at it. Wow, how bad and overgrown it had got because it wasn't being maintained. But that didn't happen overnight. And life's like that, you know. I think you sort of your attitudes evolve and change, and my view about work, that changed, and that's why I made a decision. What I would say, would you, Ali said, would you, someone retiring at 42? One thing that I've read about, a sort of thing that happened now, are mini retirements, and I think that's a great concept. So you have career breaks. I think if you're in your 40s, maybe explore a career break where you work and you do a career for maybe 10 years, you take a break, then you go back, take a break. It really depends. I mean, everybody's different. It really depends what you want in life. You know, if you want to go and travel, could you say, okay, could I do some part-time work or whatever? Look, if you got the money, you know, do it, whoopee-doo. But at 42, good for you if you got the money. I know some people do. I had an old boss years and years ago who, you know, wanted to be a millionaire back in the day. A millionaire's nothing now, is it? He says, I wish. But he wanted to be a millionaire by the time he was 40. And he was like a real hard, you know, he left school. He didn't go to university, straight into sales, you know, hardcore, selling, became a managing director of a big kind of brand company, went into sort of, you know, an IT company and stuff, sell. Then he worked for a kind of a really famous, and I forget his name now, Phones for You in the UK, and really remembers Phones for You. John Caldwell was the sort of owner, and he was one of these really aggressive, really hardcore aggressive businessman. And this was my former boss. He went to go and work for him, and he was always like hardcore, go getting all this kind of stuff. But he got his million. But he said to me, I had to leave the Phones for You. It was just so cutthroat, so aggressive, even for this guy who was a hardcore salesman, and he burnt himself out. So, you know, I mean, he still works now. He took a different job, but because what he did is he filled his life with stuff like the big house. He had a swimming pool. He had a big house, the big car. You got to keep working to pay for all of that. So you get into a sort of a self-fulfilling loop. So I would probably say, why don't you try mini retirements, career breaks? I think if I was in my 40s and I was, you know, inclined to sort of not work and wasn't looking at ways to sort of go up the greasy pole, you know, career-wise, which often many people are at 40, maybe take a career break, which is another thing. You know, it's that old midlife crisis, you know, around 40 that sort of people have. You have midlife crisis at any time, but maybe that's an option. Yeah, I mentioned it before. Tronaldino. I think that's a good. I think that's a good option. I think easing your way into retirement. In a way, I think I'd eased my way into retirement anyway. Like, but working from home, because I didn't have to commute. It wasn't busy all the time. Could I occupy myself with stuff work-wise? Yes. But as I said, I could do my job really quickly and efficiently. Not badly, efficiently. There's nothing wrong with doing your job efficiently. If your job is 9 to 5, you come in at 9 and you leave at 5 and you do your job well and efficiently, fine. You don't have to linger around the office. You don't have to come in early. And if you're 50, it's like, I don't care. I'm not trying to impress anybody. When you're younger, you're keen and you want to show keenness and you're a bit nervous and, there's a hierarchy and you might not want to leave work and all that kind of stuff. But working from home was a sort of like part-time for me to a certain degree because I could do my job efficiently. But I wanted to pursue other things. Like making YouTube videos and stuff like that. And, to be honest, to see if I could make a go of this a bit more, without the pressure of having to make a go of it financially, just do some more. And I was making videos while I was working, when I, in between, at lunch times or after work, working from home, you could just shut the laptop at 5:30 or 5 o'clock, whatever, and do something. You don't have to travel home. I basically closed my email and then opened up my YouTube or my DaVinci Resolve to do editing and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think part-time is a good way to do it because it eases you into it. I think Limelight Vintage is good. I think gifting to your kids when they need the money is probably the way to go. I've said before in a video, I know people who are in their 60s who are still looking after their parents, or not even looking after their parents. The parents are perfectly healthy in their, 80s, 85 or whatever. And so if their parents die when they're 90, these people are going to be 65, 70. So yeah, the money's going to help, the inheritance, but it probably would have helped. In fact, maybe there's two sweet spots. If your parents give you your money, like inheritance early in your 20s when you might need it to buy a house, or you get through all of that and then you retire, and then your parents who, you retire at 60, 65, and your parents are like 20, 85, 90, and then they, sadly pass away, and then you inherit. Well, you'll benefit then because you're retired. So you'll have a comfortable retirement as long as you're healthy. But you might not be able to use all that inheritance that you've got because you might be 65, 70. So then you just hand it on, I guess. It just becomes secular, doesn't it? You hand it on to the next generation. So I think if you can be sort of wise about when if you've got that inheritance, if you hand it down, especially from a tax point of view. Again, I'm not a financial expert or anything like that, but there are certain advantages in the UK of gifting money to family members before you die to avoid inheritance tax. Barry Kelleher, I'm 40, debating whether to take a 5-year career break while the kids are still young. As I said, I think this is the new retirement, career breaks. Yeah, why not? Keep your hand in. I mean, careers are changing so fast, aren't they? And what with the rise of AI and stuff like that is going to make a massive difference. Trust me. But yeah. Yeah, I think taking a career break, if you can. I mean, we used to have long service leave where I worked. If you could build it up, if you've been there for 10 years, then you could build it up and then take a long break. And people used to take 6 months off maybe and go off and do something. But I think longer than that, I think is a good idea. I think a series of mini retirements is the future. We no longer really work in a world where you stay in the same job. I'm one of those rare things. But it's just the nature of the company I work for. People stuck around. But nowadays, people move from job to job. Jobs are so transient, aren't they? working from home, jobs changing location, being a digital nomad, all of that kind of stuff. Completely changing the work landscape. Jobs will be replaced. We're living in seismic times, I think, career-wise. It's not, the same rules don't apply. Retirement, working all your life, grinding all your life, just so you can retire at 65, I think does no longer, it's just my opinion, but I no longer fit for purpose in this world. I think mini breaks is the answer. Boxing Monkey says, sorry, I'm late. Have I missed the best looking women over 50 bit yet? Okay, so Boxing Monkey did send, let me get this question earlier. Give you a chance to give it some much needed thought. The top 3 most attractive women over 50. Now, presumably you mean celebs. Put it down in the comments down below if you want to join in the fun. And hey, let's be inclusive here, ladies and gentlemen. With Boxing Monkey, the 8,621st of the Boxing Monkey family. Let's make it inclusive and put the men as well, man. Most attractive men over 50. Come on. Interestingly enough, I was thinking about this because of this silly question. And it got me thinking about sort of the cultural difference. Because obviously you think about celebs. And it's a lot easier to think about handsome men over 50 than it is women. And that's because culturally, you know, you're handsome men. Men in their 50s are considered handsome, and then they're always cast culturally in movies. I'm not saying this is right or wrong, with obviously significantly younger women. So it's quite hard, but I did have a think about it. I have got some ideas. Obviously, my beautiful partner aside, and whoever I say will get me into trouble anyway. But hey, I've got to live life dangerously. So yeah, have a think about it. I've got some ideas. Nigel Ennis says, do you plan to stay in the UK or move to a lower cost location? So this is a big, this is something actually, thank you for reminding me. I do plan to research. And obviously I've been talking about it with my partner about, shut that window there. Where we might want to live. And, you know, Japan is an option. She is originally from Japan. And I absolutely love Japan. Everything seems to work there, apart from their banking system. But it works, but it's just a bit old-fashioned from what I'm used to. But everything else is futuristic. There are elements of Japan which is like you know, as a real cliche, super futuristic and efficient and wonderful and polite and clean and all of that. And there are other bits which are just very, what I might consider old-fashioned, but it's just sort of a traditional way of working. You know, they still have fax machines in the offices. It's just because the people in senior positions are quite old. It's changing, but yeah, the money is still a bit old-fashioned. I'm so used to sort of a cashless society. It's still cashless, but you just use a bit more cash in hand than I'm used to here. But other than that, love it. So that is consideration, although it's obviously, it's not really a cheap location in terms of, well, actually, compared to England, it's it's relative. It's probably cheaper, even Tokyo, certainly cheaper than London, but the yen is not that great, and so you get a lot of bang for your buck at the moment in terms of your everyday expenses. So that is a consideration. I've talked, you know, I thought about Vietnam. I've seen some, you know, videos about Da Nang and all that. And that kind of sounds quite cool. But then actually, do I really want a beach life all year round? You know, or Bali, or, you know, all the cliched places, Thailand, maybe North Thailand, not Phuket or Bangkok or anything crazy like that. But, you know, there's a lot of digital nomads and a digital economy, but the big thing is how long you can stay there. You know, obviously my sister went and bought a house in France, but I've got 2 sisters and they do not get on. They They don't talk to each other. They haven't talked to each other for years and years and years. But ironically enough, they both end up buying houses in France, completely oblivious of each other. They live about an hour and a half away. I find it vaguely amusing. They hate each other and they end up living, leaving the UK and living in the same country about an hour and a half away from each other. Completely coincidental. It's not coincidental because it's a dream of many people in the UK. Just want a little bit more sun, especially if you live a bit further up north. Anyway, so I thought about going to France, but when my sister went there, we were part of the European community, so you could just go and buy a house and live there. Didn't need a visa. Whereas now, I'd have to get a visa, and it takes ages to get a residential visa. Like if you were already living there, you could apply, like my sister did, for a residential visa. So actually, moving anywhere is, for any period of time, is difficult. So, and I actually really like the UK in the summertime. I mean, the spring that we're having right now, especially if you live down south, is really nice. We've had some lovely stretches of sunny days. I love all the blossom. The flowers are coming up. The trees. I live in the countryside, so in fairness, I'm not in a grimy city or anything like that. I live in the countryside, so it's when the weather is good, I love it here. And it's familiar. So I think what I will do, my plan is to live in different places throughout the year. So maybe go and live for 90 days, 3 months, you've got your, on the Schengen agreement, visa, whatever, go to any place and live there for like 90 days, get a short-term, apartment for 3 months and go and live there. Probably, I'd love to go out to, Tokyo and stuff like that. So that's my plan and my dream with my partner, if she'll still have me. So yeah, I'd love to do that. And maybe just, visit places like Vietnam and stuff. I just don't think I'd want to live there and stuff, but visit there for periods of time, maybe. But there's loads of places, that I haven't explored. So, France as well. I mean, I did go and see a house in France out of curiosity. But again, it's the problem, like, I won't be able to... It's fine having, like, a holiday home there. You can go and visit throughout the year, maybe stay for a period of time. But then you've got, like, a 90-day limit. So, yeah, that's annoying. Maybe that will change in the future. Thanks, Brexit. I'm in Laos now and a month in Vietnam to suss out possible retirement places. I've been living in Sydney last 21 years after moving there from London. Yeah, see, Da Nang in Vietnam is something I've seen a lot on YouTube. And Vietnam's sort of up and coming. It's got a lot of inward investment in it. So it's sort of happening. Sean Cartwright says, re-tax, standard practice, pay half income tax per month to get annual tax bill correct. Lots of info about this on HMRC website. Good, I'll check that out. It's interesting enough because I got one payment from my pension which was not, they did not deduct tax. So I think that payment had the right tax code on it. But they came very close together. And I think it was just like, it all happened within the space of 3 days. Because when I went on the government website, it said your tax code has changed. And that was like 3 days ago. I had a letter from the pension company. Although I got it yesterday, it was dated 2 days ago or 4 days ago. So they sort of overlapped. The change in the tax code overlapped, I think. So. Notar says, I'm going to part-time in teaching in September. 59 years old. I've had enough of full-time now. I can see it as an ease into retirement. I have a friend of mine who's a teacher. And she told me she took redundancy, only a small redundancy in her like 40s from a different career. And then went into teaching. And then she was a contract teacher, teaching in primary schools, doing dance and stuff like that. And now she's sort of slowing it down a bit as well. So I think, if you can go part-time, I think it's a good way to sort of ease your way into it. How are your Powers Money? Every good to see you. Victor Gauchi there. Wonder what he had to say. You always get a job if you need it later. I got fired when I was taking care of my mum when she was dying, but I'm glad I did. Made me realise I could stop work. Yeah, sometimes it's these, I mean, sorry to hear that. And sometimes it's these moments in life that you could trigger things, can't they? They make you, often it takes a moment in life to make you rethink your priorities in life and stuff like that. And exactly, if you can, are you living to work? It's a real cliche, but are you living to work or are you working to live? It's that kind of notion. So if you can reduce your outgoings, yeah, maybe you don't need to have that fancy job. It's just a job that is that is, more stress-free than your previous job. As long as it pays, working in a coffee shop, whatever it is. I don't know how stressful that would be, but, I've always dreamt of maybe being a barista. Probably be not quite as exciting as I imagined. Grass is always greener, isn't it? No task is extravagance is overrated for me, at least. As long as I've got the money for basics, have a meal out if I fancy one, go for a pint when I want, I'll be happy. I think that's the level. Yeah, no tar. I think you're right. I think that is the level. I think if you can just factor in enough, like you pop out for a coffee with somebody, meet up with somebody. I met up with somebody locally, we went for a walk, popped into the pub, had a couple of drinks. None of us drink, so we were going to have a coffee, but both of them were Pepsi Maxes or, Diet Pepsis. Had a chin wag, sat in the beer garden. Lovely. Pop out for a meal, maybe once, occasionally. That's yeah. As long as you can, you're not so, you pulled in everything so much that you can't pop out and enjoy yourself. Yeah. But I think that's the right. My last extravagance, ladies and gentlemen, may I just share, is my little G-Shock, my metal G-Shock. I'm a massive fan of G-Shock watches, and so when I retired, they had a little whip round and got me some money, and so I spent it and treated myself on a metal Casio, call it a Casio G-Shock. That was my last extravagance. And now what my extravagances will be holiday breaks. I'm so used to just buying odd gadgets off Amazon now and then. I've tried to eradicate that. Or if I do, it's for my business of YouTube, and then I can use YouTube money to pay for it. But other than that, my extravagances will be travel, because I want to collect experiences like I used to when I traveled for work in my late 20s and early 30s. I collected incredible experiences, and then I worked and the kids, and I've had experiences with my kids. So yeah, and then I got into a sort of stasis where I don't do any of that. I go to the same holiday, I go and see my sister in France every summer and all that kind of stuff. I want a bit more, so I'll save money for little treats, little trips. I live in the US. I might move back to the UK when I'm old. I worry about healthcare. Yeah, some people ask me that about, have I got private medical insurance and stuff like that. That's one good thing about the UK, although obviously the level of service can vary dramatically depending where you live. But I'm very, it doesn't cost if I've got anything wrong with me. My son sprained his ankle at school, and he was in a lot of pain. Rang up the NHS, went through the symptoms, booked him in to the local sort of hospital for an X-ray. That afternoon, popped round, nobody was there. It was really empty. Very rare this in the UK. Saw the doctor straight away, put him into X-ray. No one was sitting in the X-ray department. Saw him straight away, had an X-ray. We were in and out 20 minutes. Now, normally you go to a big city hospital. Oh my God, it's like Armageddon in there. It's like a zombie apocalypse. So services can vary, but the point is it is free. So you don't have to worry about private health insurance, which was a question that I was asked. I'm trying to find the thingy. Okay, can't find the... Yeah, I was asked about, so there we are. Yeah, make it work. The background music is something called Stream Beats. It's free, copyright free, chill out music. You can find it on Spotify. It's called Stream Beats. And they just make music for like YouTube streams or Twitch streams and stuff like that. You can play in the background, just chill out, or work too. Just chill out music. The idea is learning anything but new to keep active for the brain, especially when old. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, says Wisdom. Your cognitive ability does reduce. And so that's why, yeah, I'm constantly into AI stuff, trying to learn new things, trying to code, all of that. Nothing wrong with my 20-year-old bathroom. Yeah, oh my God. My bathroom in this house does need a change. It's all right, actually. It is as I found it. Fortunately, they'd updated the kitchen when I moved in. But the bathroom has a massive picture. I don't know why. On the wall, right? Instead of tiling it, they've put like a frame on the wall, right? A white sort of cornicing frame. And then using sort of plaster, and sort of textured plaster, they've painted a massive picture of a whale with its fluke tail coming out of the water. Like the guy, whoever lived here before, obviously fancied themselves an artist. So it's sort of textured. And I've kind of, I don't know if it's really, really tacky or really, really cool. But there will come a point where I will have to change my bathroom. How am I going to afford it? I don't know. I think my view will be, if I have savings left in 5 years' time, well, what I can do is I can take equity on the house. Because then if I ever do decide to sell up, I'll get it back. You know, the house prices in the UK tend to only go in one direction. They might wibble wobble, but they tend to go one direction over the long term. So equity is the solution if I ever want to get in. I've only a small bathroom to do that. Yeah, solar panels. I've thought about it. It's just the expense. I was thinking about I have an oil. We have no gas where I live in the village. We don't have a mains gas. So you either have electric wood stoves, electric stoves, or gas bottles, or oil. Now, oil is quite cheap. It's just not very environmentally friendly. It's very economic. Yeah, so we have big oil tankers in our gardens, and then an oil boiler. But anyway, the boiler needs changing. So I was thinking of getting one of the air extraction things. But it's an old house, and I understand that for them to be really effective, you've got to properly insulate your house. So that's another expense and stuff like that. I'd rather invest the 10k plus than go solar. Yeah, and that's the decision. What's your opinion on lifestyling from pension companies in the last 10 years before retirement? I'm not sure exactly what you mean, John, by lifestyling from pension companies. Do you mean planning out the life that you want and working with pension companies to sort of work how you will achieve that lifestyle? You know, my lifestyle assessment is, do I have enough? And can I have a little bit more? That's kind of what I need. I mean, you know, I think about what do I need? I don't need anything. I've got a car. As long as I can pay for repairs on that, which is factored into my budget. Yeah, car repairs. I've got the house. I've got my health. Touch wood. I've got all my computer equipment. Yeah. Yeah, it might need updating, you know, but I could, you know, that might be a graphics card or something like that. I don't have to be extravagant. I can just, you know, replace bits. I've got pretty good equipment, you know, that works quite well. So, ooh, that's what she said. Oh, it's the Philippine flag. Mrs. and I spent a few months out there in preparation for retirement. Yeah, you see, now I get it. I mean, I think, you know, talking about how much do you need, you know, if I went and lived in Thailand on 2 grand, or, you know, Da Nang in Vietnam, it's a nice, comfortable living. Nice apartment. Eat out most of the time. Yeah. It's just that I don't know. I've sort of got, I quite like an element of the sort of functioning city. I'm not saying Da Nang, you know, whatever, or, you know, Bangkok's not a functioning city, but I quite like, yeah, the idea of sort of a beach life all the time. Maybe not for me, that kind of thing, but definitely, yeah, I think it's a real option. Again, if you can work out the visa situation, the cost of living, you suddenly, like I said, it's all relative, isn't it? Suddenly 2 grand a month, you're living not like a king, but you're living a lot better off than I would be in the UK if I was in, you know, Vietnam or wherever, you know. Hey, the Chrisus, thank you. Hello from the Raleigh. I have to keep going. Got a GLP-1, MP1 back habit, always seduced by, oh gosh, waiting for the Google XR glasses for my new AR companion. Yeah, I know what you mean. I've weaned myself off that. Like, I've still got my Pixel 7 phone. I could have changed it. My son wants me to change it because he inherits my phone. You know, hand it down. I was thinking of getting a nothing phone, but no, for the first time in my life, I was always replace your phone every 2 years. No, I've gone beyond it now, because now I own my phone outright. So I just pay minimal data charge. It's still really, really good phone. I don't have that FOMO thing, that fear of missing out. I'm weaning myself off it, although I'm always tempted. Nigel Richardson says, I'd like you, 57 took the leap. I plan to do fun work for the next years and let the 69.3 rule get to the right place. Yeah, I think that's right. Just do fun work. Fill up, top up if you can. It normally increases by some percentage in payment. Yeah. If you're talking about my pension payments, yeah, it does. Yeah, it's great being free to do what you want, but this is Dave, NWUK, says, will you miss a wider sense of purpose? No, if so, how do you manage this? Oh, well, I think having a purpose is key, is really important. And at the moment, I have fun. It's not my sole purpose in life, but I'm having fun doing this YouTube lark. I have a couple of other channels. I do stuff on that. It gives me focus. I think if I had nothing, it would, I think you would fall into an ennui. I love that word. A bit of an ennui, listlessness. Yeah, there's that danger. I like the ability, as I said earlier, I like the option that I could just do nothing. Yeah. Now and then. But in order to appreciate doing nothing now and then, you have to do some stuff now and then in between. And then having the freedom to stop. I know that sounds like bashing your head against a brick wall because it's nice when you stop. I don't mean it like that. I think the problem with the career break is you might struggle to get back to the old pace. You now have a new experience to compare with work and be unbearable. Yeah. I think that maybe less so nowadays. I think you're right in terms of that's how it used to be. But I think for the next generations coming up, the Gen Zs and stuff, I think they're just used to changing jobs a bit more. But yeah. Fax machines. Oh, yeah. Offices have fax machines in Japan. Yeah, de-risking. Oh, right. Yeah, de-risking. I see what you mean. Okay. Are you talking about the lifestyle pension? Okay, I'm with you. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, that's a lot of questions. I'm just going to quickly, if I can find it, again. Let's just see if I've got the right page. Let me just test something. Quick, answer some earlier questions that were sent in. Remember to hit the likes, and as I said, let's just hit the subscribe thing as well, just to remind you all. hit subscribe. What kit do I use for my walk and talk videos? I use a DJI Pocket thing, which is really, really cool. I'll just show you quickly for those that are interested. It's a little thing like this. Loads of people, YouTubers, use it. One of the biggest selling cameras. Yeah, it's got a little stabilizer gimbal on it and stuff like that. And then comes with a nice little professional sort of mic, and you're all good. I used to have a little gimbal for my phone, but then it was quite heavy holding it. And then also sometimes I want my phone in case somebody calls me and stuff like that. So I treated myself before I left work. I thought these walk and talk videos that I was doing just on my old Pixel, I have a black camera app on it. Black Magic camera app, which allows you a bit more changes you can do with the camera to make it look even more professional. And I used that on a sort of on a gimbal thing. But yeah, so then I thought these are going well. I'm going to treat myself because I use it all the time, and got myself a little DJI Pocket. So yeah, good question. And I've just gone and delete the right, another quick question. I want to say thank you for everybody who's joined us today. I'm really pleasantly surprised. I wasn't sure anybody would turn up. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that. Nice work on the channel. At what point did it occur to you that you could fire financial independence, retire early, and how long did it take to achieve from that point? Very quickly, because of redundancy. Once it was there and they put a redundancy calculator out for you. Let's clear that. Yeah, once they put out that and you work out and they start doing the maths and the calculations and exploring the pension, doing the pension calculations and stuff like that. To be honest, it all happened within, when I look back now, it happened so quickly. I'm talking like probably 4 months. Probably less for the decision. You know, I had to talk to my boss, you know, to say, look, my line manager, and she was like devastated. And I said, look, I'm thinking about it. And she was like, oh my God, no, we've got such a good team here. Please, I need you. And I go, well, you know, and then she came to me and she says, look, I want you to stay, but do you really want this? As a friend, do you want this? Because I can argue your case for you. And I went, ugh. Yeah, okay. And within months, yeah, here I am. So it happened a lot quicker. I'd been, as I said, I've been thinking about retirement early, possibility if it came round, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, it's here. And, you know, the whole issue I have with my pension at the moment, not quite being paid in time and stuff like that, is because people said, oh, you should have sorted it out earlier. Well, because the time was compressed and the decision making as well. Like the company were meant to inform everybody who'd requested voluntary redundancy by the end of November. And then you'd sign your bits of paper at the beginning of December. And then I would have kind of gone hardcore on the pension, started doing the pension stuff, getting that ready in place, ready to go. But no, they delayed that decision until the end of December. But they couldn't change the leaving point because that had to be within the financial year. So basically they compressed the time that you had to do anything. And also by making the announcements of who would have voluntary redundancy at the end of December, everyone's on holiday. And you got to fill out your form, your confirmation form, a letter saying, yes, I accept these terms. Like, but you've got like Christmas, New Year's, no one's back until the 6th or, you know, the 6th of January or something like that. So it's like, well, it all happened very quickly. Maybe that was a good thing though. Who knows? Congrats on the 5K. I'd be interested if you talk about experience any tension between doing things for yourself versus giving back to others as volunteering or charity. I work for, but I did this beforehand. It's not a lot of work. I'm part of the management committee for a sports venue for hire in the village where I work. Basically, the local council were going to close it down, and I made a little YouTube video, protest YouTube video, that went little mini viral in the community. And so a group of us volunteered we went to the council and said, we'll take it over and run it voluntary because we think the village uses it more than you think they do. And what, 8 years later, yeah, it's still running. But it doesn't take a lot of my time. And I think it's a balance. Not a lot of people, like, you know, my partner asked me to go and help her with some DIY and stuff, and that's fine. That's what she said. So I'm not asked to do lots and lots of things that, like, I suddenly think, no, it's my time. I retired so I could have my own time. So far, I don't mind doing the odd thing. It's quite nice because I've got the freedom to do it. As I said, picking up my kids from London and driving them all the way back from a concert, rather than having to try and stay the night there at a hotel or grab a train late at night or whatever. I didn't mind doing that because I've got the time to do it. I can always chill and relax and lie in bed the next day. So that makes it enjoyable. You don't mind helping other people when there's no stress to it and all of that. So yeah. I've had a question here about, yeah, we talked about the retirement budget and stuff like that. So yeah, $2,000 a month, 25 grand a year, probably something like that is what we're aiming for. That question. A lot of people wishing me well. Thank you. Steve Mullins, thank you very much. Wishing me well. If I don't get to your question, I do apologize. Let me know if you'd like me to do this again. I've had, you know, it's great to see so many people turn up and all of that. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've gone on longer than I thought, but I'm a bit of a chatterbox. Oh my God. But yeah, maybe we'll do some more of these and we can make them more focused, whatever. Just let me know in the chat, all of that. Do you have private health insurance? So we talked about this before. Now I'm lucky in the UK. I don't have to worry about that. Although part of me thinks if I could afford it, I've seen some insurance schemes that are around £100 a month on top. But like, yeah, being in the UK, we have the NHS and that is a massive godsend, especially when you're older. Yeah, levels of service can differ around the country, but generally, as I said, you know, you don't have to, I mean, I have some medication, and I have to pay for that. That's fine. But when you hit pension age, you might not have to. I can't remember now what the rule is, but it's like nothing is, well, it's not, you know, it's like 20 quid for like 40 drugs or something like that. Nothing. But yeah, if I got an ailment or anything, just pop to the NHS, bish bash bosh. Oh gosh, tiny writing. Would you like to travel the world like To Go Rome? I highly recommend the channel To Go Rome. Yeah, so I definitely want to travel. I'm not sure I want to travel all the time. I know I've talked about my sister, but her and her husband are planning to go on a cruise. You know, that before it's too late, as it were. So they live in France half the year, but they're sort of going to save up, and then take like a long cruise to visit loads of places around the world. Not sure I'd want to do that, but I get that. But I do want to live in different places, or at least not just go and visit, but experience for 3 months, especially Tokyo. I'd just love, you know, or Japan in general. I'd love to just, you know, if I could stay in Japan, maybe for longer, then maybe I would. If I could do this in Japan, that would be great, wouldn't it? I'd love it. Love it. It's about purpose for work. So we've talked about that. Thank you, DKN W62, the 62nd of the DKNWs. I could make replacing the sense of purpose. Freedom is a gift. Yeah. Requiring some focus and management. It is. It is. I think you do need to manage it. Otherwise, you can let the opportunity that the freedom offers you slip through your fingers because you get too comfortably numb, as I said. Yeah, I did do the financial planning myself, but um, I did run it through a financial advisor. So they give you one. My pension company, you get 3 consultations as part of with WPS Advisory, who are a financial company, and I sat and I went through meetings with them, and I sent them my plan, and he just said, yeah, it looks like good. I wanted it sense checked. I mean, I like to think I'm a reasonably intelligent guy, so I'd done the calculations, but it's just nice to know from an expert that your maths is sort of correct. And you've got to be so, like, I'm going to do a video about just why tax and pensions are so complicated, unnecessarily so. It's like a Heath Robinson, for those who know what that reference means. It's like a Heath Robinson invention, tax. I think it's just so many add-ons where you just scrap the whole lot. I don't mean scrap tax. Tax is important. I'm a great believer in tax. I know it's controversial, but as long as the taxes are used wisely. But there must be a simpler system, a way to simplify it, but it just gets complicated and things get added on and then people find loopholes and it just, but yeah, I think if you are dealing with investments and stuff like that, then definitely there are traps to avoid, errors to avoid, and savings to be made with the right tax plan. So definitely it's worth, at the levels I'm operating, and the income streams that I've got, I think I'm managing the tax efficiently. But if you're in a complicated situation, it's definitely worth getting, an expert on board to advise without a shadow of a doubt. Which I guess leads me to Boxing Monkey, the 8,621st of the Boxing Monkey family. Okay, I'm just going to name them here. I'll get into a lot of trouble. They're really cliched. I just caveat this all with the fact that I've never really sort of fancied celebs. I'm using inverted commas there. I've never really fancied celebs because if I find anyone attractive, I need to like their personality. So I might like somebody's personality from a movie, but that's a character. So it's a fictional character, isn't it? So it's hard for me to judge just purely on looks. But if I'm forced to, off the top of my head, and these are real cliches, I know. I also like women who age well. I don't, like not too much work. I mean, you'd be talking celebrities and Hollywood celebrities and things like that. Inevitably, the culture we live in, they have work done, and that's fine, but not too much. You want the work to sort of not be too obvious. People overcompensate or have body dysmorphia when it comes to sort of plastic surgery. Anyway, so that's all the caveats out the way. I'm going to say them now. If I get into trouble, I get into trouble. But Jennifer Aniston. Oh, boring. I know. But she seems to have aged well. J-Lo is another one who seems to have aged well. And then Lucy Liu is the other one. Lucy Liu. So those are the 3. They're all of a similar age to me. They're like 2 or 3 years younger, maybe, I think, which is surprising. It's a lot easier with men. You can go like Keanu Reeves. I mean, he's a good looking guy. He's charming, all of that kind of stuff. Brad Pitt, although the work, he's had a lot of work now. So, he's sort of sinking down, I think, in my estimations because he's had a lot of work. But yeah, so there we are. Just throw them out there. Controversial. Yeah, so I talked briefly about the pension, leaving the Matrix in 1978. Presumably that's your age. I'm talking about a private pension, so a company pension. The UK pension kicks in, so the state pension, if you built up enough payments during your working life to what we call national insurance. This is for the benefit of people outside of the UK. You pay your tax, and part of your tax is that you paid your national insurance. And if you built up enough payments, then you'll get the state pension. But the state pension doesn't pay out until you're 67. Basically, I think you have to have about 30 or 35 years of national insurance contributions. And then, yeah, it pays out when you're 67. Interesting enough, interesting fact, I believe, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm incorrect, I've misheard this, but the money that you pay in national insurance isn't like a savings account for when you retire. The money that you pay is paying for people now who have retired at state pension age. So the national insurance you pay now pays for people who are retired now. And when you retire, the people who are working are basically paying your retirement. I think that's how it works. I never knew that. I might be wrong. I might have misread that, but it's weird. But yeah, so I have a corporate pension now, my pension now, and then when I hit pension age, that will be added to by my state pension, which isn't a lot. I mean, looking at the minimum required for a single person, I think the state pension is just below it. Let me just check. So now it's £230 a week. Quick maths. Let's have a quick look. Excuse me, I'll do quick maths. 230 times 52. Yeah, 11,960. I think it's going up slightly. The personal, yeah, it is, because the personal allowance, tax allowance, is 12,500, and I think it's going to, the state pension is just under that, but when it gets its increase with inflation, it will take people into the tax bracket. So not that they'll, you know, oh my God, you haven't paid tax on your, you're only paying tax on the odd 100 or so above it, but you know, at that level, so, you know, every penny counts. So based on that other thing that we talked about, living standards for being, how much will I need? 14 grand a year minimum, 14,400 for a single person. If you're retiring now at 67, you're only getting 11 grand. Let's say 12, let's call it 12 grand. You're getting 12 grand. So you're 2 grand short if you no other pension and state pension than what they what the minimum requirement is for a normal life. So yeah, you can't really rely on your state pension, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, crazy that is. Okay. Do you find the change from saver to spender difficult? Yes, yes, and yes. I am adapting. There's a Japanese sort of thing called keikaboo. Keikaboo. I think I want to call it keikaboo. Keikaboo. Anyway, it was sort of developed by a Japanese sort of housewife economist back in the 20s or 30s, and it was a way of like managing your household income. But also part of it is being about mindful about what you spend. And now it's kind of adopted very much Japanese culture, and a lot of Japanese housewives run the household expenses using this keikaboo method. Look, I just read the word recently. I'm going to do research in it. I might do a video on it and try and apply it to my life. But part of it is being mindful about what you want to buy and thinking about it. And I think that helps. Do I really need it? There's so many, we are bombarded so much by Instagram and stuff like that and adverts. And I'm always tempted. I mean, I keep getting G-Shock adverts and I see a new one. I think, oh, that's nice. I've got loads of Converse shoes and I always think, oh, I'll get myself. No, I've built up a collection of watches. I don't need any more. I've built up a collection of Converse shoes. I don't need any more. They're classics. The G-Shock is a classic. Converse shoes are a classic. It's not though they're going to go out of fashion. I just need t-shirts and jeans. That's all I need. So yeah, it is difficult going from saver to spender, but I'm going to embrace Keikaboo, the Japanese philosophy, and see if it helps. Anyway, last one, DN Demo. I retired at end of January. No intention of going back to work. Presently in Kyoto with my wife traveling. Ohayou gozaimasu. Ohayou gozaimasu. Onegashimasu. 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 See, my Duolingo's not working very well. Anyway, yeah, that was great. Brilliant. I envy you. Anyway, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's call it a wrap. It went on a bit longer than I thought. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it useful. I really, really appreciate you all being here today. Let me know as well in the comments. And if you're watching this later and you've got through to this end, woo, good for you, sir and madam. Remember, hit the likes, hit the subscribe button, because I like it, YouTube likes it, and it helps people like you find content like this. I really, really appreciate you being here. As I said, thank you for taking your time out to watch this. And as I said, even if you're watching it later, I appreciate that as well. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the weekend, and look out for new videos from me shortly. Thank you very much, and goodbye. Jenny!
Rage on that beat, going crazy.